Hello, my name's Elizabeth, but you can call me Liz. In today's video, we're gonna eat the now famous chapaguri and talk about Colorado ghosts. So if you want to see that, keep on watching. But first, let's intro it.
Mój dans ma gram, więc chodź do tańca, gdy krok to szansa i los nam gra. Mam duszę starca, nie umywam za napad.
Do you see that? It is currently 2:19 p.m. and I'm barely having lunch. Lunch, I tell you. So I'm not gonna label this as a mukbang because I don't think it's mukbang type of material, I think. So it's just gonna be me talking about ghosts, most importantly from Colorado. So I've been follow top 10, all these scary like websites and YouTube channels and everything, and they never mention Colorado. I mean, sure, like I get it, like the plantations, the wars, the civil wars have a lot of ghosts, sure, but like I feel slightly offended as someone from Colorado when I don't see a lot of Colorado ghost stories. So I was like, you know what, F this, I'm gonna make one. So we're making one, but first I really want to try this. Except I don't have steak, but I do have this and this. So these are types of samgyeopsal, I believe. These are the meats that I found because I don't know how to ask for steak in Korea. Like I don't even know how to ask for steak in America. Like I don't eat a lot of meat. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try this. This is really good, actually. I have kimchi here, chilling on the side, and I have this boksungam soda, which is just peach soda. It's like one of the sparkling peach sodas, and this legit tastes like I'm drinking a peach, like I'm eating a peach. Wait, either way, it's delicious. I feel like the noburi really like comes out like the little spice. This is delicious. And I made enough for like 2 more days. The samgyeopsal meat just adds to it. This is delicious. So I've realized that I bought like these little mini bags of kimchi because I realized that I don't like stir-fried kimchi because they sell that and I don't like this. So this kimchi is so much better because the ones I buy stir-fried kimchi and they taste like stir-fried, but this kimchi is delicious. I'm getting like slight cabin fever now that like yesterday was the first day that I went outside, like outside. I had to go buy a few groceries and go to the bank and stuff like that, but it was the first day and there were a lot more people out there than I thought there would be, honestly. But like I've been getting cabin fever and I'm like, oh, I'm so bored. Like I've been watching anime, Netflix. I started rewatching Supernatural, but the whole point is me trying to avoid going outside. But talking about cabin fever, you know what's the #1 most known story about Colorado, which inspired a very well-known movie? Would be the Stanley Hotel, and that inspired The Shining. I believe the Stanley Hotel is in Estes Park. So that's the most talked about ghost legend there is, and people see shadow figures and apparitions and they just get a very creepy feeling. But yeah, Stanley Hotel in Estes Park is the #1 ghost story from Colorado. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But like there has to be more out there, right? And of course there is. Because a lot of the stories that I will bring you today, I believe out of the 5 technically 5, technically 3, but one has 2 more. Out of the 5 stories, a lot of them are in universities, and actually one of them is in my local university, so I was like, yes, I'm gonna do this. So the first one I actually found on Reddit, and it's by this person called You Spooky Moon. And this happens in Georgetown, Colorado. So to give you some context, Georgetown is a small town, I guess, and it's surrounded by mountains and very few people are in there. And Reddit user, his story revolves around when he was a child as well as when he was a bit older. So this story that he told was he was in, I believe, somewhere between kindergarten and first year. So he was very small, about like 5 years old maybe. And he said that that day at school, the kids could bring their favorite stuffed animal. So he brought his little, I believe, a little tiger, kind of like a tiger. And he bought it and he was like, yay, and I believe it's a she also. So she brought it, she was happy and everything, and then it was time for recess. So the kids all put their little stuffed animals in a corner. But they all put their stuffed animals in a corner, and then they went to recess. But these two, they had a habit of coming back early from recess and just, I don't know, like being outside basically. So they came in and both her and her friend saw the tiger along with this little stuffed mermaid just bouncing up and down, kind of like if someone was holding it, was just like doing this. That looks wrong, but they were doing that, and like the poor kid freaked out because you just see random stuffed animals floating in the air going, bouncing, and then they both let out a scream and it stopped and they dropped, right? And so she was like,
ghosts are real, holy shit.
and then she shared another story when she was about 10 years old, 10 or 11. So she was still, I believe, in elementary school. She was helping out, I believe, in the painting club, and her teacher asked her like, oh, go get something from this like upstairs, yada yada. And so she went, right? But like as she was walking, she just got this feeling that like someone was like watching her, and she was like running up, you know, to get away. So she tried to run up, right, and into the room. It was just very creepy. So she went in, but then behind her the door just locked. And she was like screaming, right, as any one person would. And then the poor girl just was like trying to look for the stuff and did it. And then she said she felt even more like eyes on her. She said she felt like she bumped into someone, but there was no one there except her. And then she felt a hand on her shoulder. So she screamed even more, and then the teacher came and was like, are you okay? So yeah, that was her story. And I was like, yeah, all towns with mountains all around you will do that to you. But I heard that also that children are susceptible more so than like older people to see ghosts and to feel presence. So the next one, I kind of want to use my notes just for this because it actually happened. It's not just an urban legend or like, oh, people say this happened, but it actually happened. So I want to be respectful and kind of get my facts straight. So to give you context, in Colorado there's a city called Boulder. And in Boulder, there is CU Boulder, which is a really, really good university. It's really expensive to get into.
I tried to get into that school. It was like 40 grand a year. I was like, haha, no.
There's a lot of majors, just like in any university. On one day in 1966, the police found the body of a young girl in an auditorium. And that was the Mackey Auditorium. And they found the body of Elora Jaquette, who was murdered in the organ room by the custodian. Now, the police doesn't really know how the custodian lured her into the organ room, but they know that she was lured there, whether it was by the custodian asking her, oh, like, can you help me with the animals? Because she was a zoology major from what I've researched. And she went and tried to help, and she was raped and murdered by the custodian, and he attempted to burn the room down to hide the evidence. And the claim is that you could hear her screams at night in Mackey Auditorium. I was like, oh, is actually, like, there is evidence to support that this may be true. I was happy to find out that in 2009, she was honored by a bronze plaque mounted on a rock near the stream on the west side of CU's Moorland Quadrangle.
Quadrangle, I believe.
And this is also the place where the police found her lunch, her books, and everything. Like the last place she was, and her family, her sister I believe, said that this was a good place to honor her basically, because she really liked the nature and she was really outdoorsy, and it was just a very calm place for them to honor her. The custodian, Joseph Dyer Morse, died in 2008. You don't often get to see a lot of murder victims being honored, and it was such a cool thing to find out that, oh, 20 years, I believe some 20 years after the murder of Elora, the state was basically, or the college was basically able to honor her and be like, oh, this is what happened, but we still remember her and we still love her. So I was like, oh, that's so cute. And, you know, just like, be aware of your surroundings. No, like, don't walk at night with, you know, with headphones. Just be aware. So this next 3 cases are actually from my own university at UNC. So I went there, I graduated, but during freshman year actually, I lived in Wilson Hall, Visty. There's a lot of ghost stories at UNC, just like any other university probably. This is at the old campus and all this, so a lot of ghost stories are there. And actually, and one of them was actually Haunted Harrison, and they actually, during Halloween time, they do this kind of like horror maze. I believe I went there once my freshman year, and I was like, never again, because I hate those things. They feel so ruined. No. And because you get the fucking art majors who help you and like they do the makeup, and I'm like, no, just no. So this is the story of Haunted Harrison. The legend goes, because there's actually no real evidence that this ever happened, but the legend goes that there was a janitor one night cleaning. He was trying to, you know, clean up the place. He went to go get the garbage can, which was under this like chute disposal, and for some reason, for some goddamn reason, some student just threw a brick down there.
Like what? Why did you have the brick, bro?
But the brick got thrown, and the head, he was like about to pick up, and yeah, so he passed away. And they say that the janitor now roams the basement. Basically, the people who run the university stopped doing the chute disposal, and they were like, oh, it's for safety reasons, but everyone's like,
oh, are you sure, boo-boo? Like, are you sure it's not because of the ghost?
and now they make a haunted house every Halloween. And the main attraction, you go from, I believe, the first floor down to the basement and then out. The main attraction is literally the janitor, and he comes in and scares you at the end, and I was like, oh, this is terrifying. So the one where I personally know about is the one that haunts Webb King and Wilson. Now, I lived in Wilson, and sure, some people were like, oh my god, you can kind of hear, but you hear more of those ghost stories in Webb King Hall. It's the story of a girl named Edith. Now, this girl, again, there's no police evidence that this ever happened, but it just sprung up. Now, Edith was, you know, going to university, but she was often bullied or picked on by the other suite mates, by the other people that lived in her floor and just in the hall in general. And they would always play pranks on her, and one day they even took away all her furniture, so when she went into her room there was nothing.
Which I'm like, how'd you get in her room in the first place?
So they played a lot of pranks on her, and she would, you know, break down as one would if that many people were playing pranks on her, and she didn't seem like she had many friends. Now, I say this because the one way she found solace is that she went into Webb King's attic, and she would find solace there, and she would be at peace, and she would often play with marbles, and she would roll them around, you know, bounce them and just play with them. And one fateful day during spring break, they say that Edith went just couldn't take it anymore, went to the attic and hanged herself. And now people, ever since then, people hear just marbles rolling around, and they hear it. And I believe students aren't allowed to go into the attic, but they said like those who live in the lower floors, they hear marbles just rolling around, bouncing. And school officials are like, oh, you're just stressed. And I'm like, no, boo-boo. You can, and apparently you can still hear them to this day, boo-boo. The last story I'm gonna share to you would be the art sculpting class. This happened at the old art annex in the old classroom in the old building. And they say that one day this person just went to go get clay, put it in the potter's wheel, and had to go get something else with his friends, so there was no one else inside the room. But when they came back, they freaked out because in the clay they saw the impression of a face, and everyone is like, no one was here, how the heck did this happen? And then the last one is Turner Hall and room 1105, the ghost of Stony Ghost. This ghost even made it into the book Haunted Halls by Miss Elizabeth Tucker. And this legend goes that this student just either he overdosed or he died because of drugs. But students claim that around 1105, 1205, around those areas, you can smell MJ. RA officials are like,
Sure, it's the ghost, bro. It's not you that has pot in your room or hookah. Sure, bro, I'm gonna believe it's the ghost.
and they're like, oh, it's just very convenient that there's a stony ghost that died here. So when there's smell of marijuana, you know, it's the ghost. It's not me, bro. And I really liked because I went there and I was like, oh shit, you know, this is the university that I went to, and these are the stories that some of them I heard, you know, like the Haunted Harrison, the Webb King Wilson. And I later found out from people who I knew that Fraser Hall is the most haunted area in UNC, and I was like, shit, bro. So yeah, so those are 5 scary ghost stories or urban legends that I've researched about. Honestly, I came up with so many, which made me so happy because I'm like, see, suckers, Colorado is haunted. I don't know why I want to prove that Colorado is haunted just like any other state, but it was important, okay? It was an important thing to my heart. And of course, like, there's so many stories regarding the mines. And ooh, one cool one I found was about Ludlow, Colorado. But if you want me to do a part 2, una parte 2 de los haunted stories de Colorado, hit that like button somewhere down below. I don't know what, down below. And that will let me know to do a part 2. And if you ever heard any of these like stories yourself, like if you go to UNC or CU Boulder, like let me know if you heard any of these ghost stories, or if you have more ghost stories. That way we can share them to the world and prove that Colorado is haunted. Have you ever tried chapaguri? Did you eat it with steak like a bougie bits, or did you eat it with samgyeopsal or tofu or like chicken or just alone? Let me know down in the comments down below as well. Like this video if you want a part 2, because honestly, like, there's so many and I'm so happy. Subscribe down below to my channel. Comment, like, subscribe to my channel for more random shit, because that's what I'm here for, folks. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.